item on our agenda is the bills, so go over that.
Sure, I'll give a summary of the bills here. We have some larger bills related to the Confluence development, which I'll get into some detail here in a moment. The other bills that we have here, we have our annual fee for the administration of Open to Business. That's our annual fee into that program. A conference fee for Minnesota Deed Brownfields Redevelopment Conference that I spoke at, which was a great experience there. And then some legal fees, and this should be our last heating bill of $18 for 412 Vermillion Street. So those are the more routine bills. I did want to point out, and I'll talk a little bit about this here, on some of the Confluence environmental costs. So we do have two large bills this month relating to that. We have a $30,000 bill to clean vapor, which is part of the vapor intrusion mitigation system. Now, this is something that was anticipated. This was part of a $40,000 retainage for that system, so it was included in the budget and in the original contract. The payment's just coming later with the delay in the project. We would still retain another $10,000 for that. The other one is not expected and frankly much higher than we anticipated. The Mayville bill is for about $174,000. This is for encapsulation. The encapsulation and wood ceiling essentially takes the wooden beams and floors in the basement and the first floor areas of Hudson that are contaminated. There's a washing process of it, and then an encapsulation, which is like a paint-like substance that goes on the top of it. When we last spoke about this in December of '21, we anticipated $100,000 extra on this project. Now, granted, we had an original contract for this project of $400,000, which was completed. When I got the bill back in February, March, found that figure to be $174,000, so significantly higher than what we anticipated in December. So we've had numerous discussions with Mayville, looked over the bills that we received very closely. I was able to negotiate a reduction from what was originally proposed on that bill down to the $174,000, but it's still $174,000. When you take a look at why that occurred and what happened within the facility, the encapsulant was not adhering within those areas. There was about 1,100 hours, man-hours that were put into that to physically scrape those areas and then to put the encapsulant on. When we had the December estimate, we were estimating about 500 to 600 hours. When we got into the basement, it was much more intensive than we anticipated. So that's what we have for that project. As far as how we're going to pay for that, it's an unanticipated expense that we do have. When we set up the tax increment financing district for Hudson in 2015, we put together a couple of line items. The basis for that TIF district was to pay ourselves back for the initial investment of the building, which was about $3 million, as well as some development costs on that. We had put down a little over $1 million for environmental remediation and utilities in that TIF budget. When we take a look at what we spent on that budget, as of today, it's about $440,000. So we had anticipated more than what we've spent within that project on there. At the time we set that up in 2015, we were unsure of what our initial cost would be for the redevelopment or the environmental remediation of that project, and we were fortunate to get more grant funding for that, which diminished our need to dip into those TIF reserves. Now with the TIF, it's a pay-as-you-go TIF, so we haven't collected on that as of yet. We do have an internal loan fund that we can use funding against future TIF revenues to pay these bills, which is what we're going to be doing for this project. So it would be taken out of our fund balance, which has a figure of about $800,000 right now. And then when the TIF revenues come back, we would replenish the fund balance with that. So not a great information that I'm bringing forward to you today relating to that one, but this should be the end of the encapsulation project. We're done with that, but much more expensive than we anticipated, and certainly can stand for any questions. Ultimately, we have an action to approve the bills as well.
So just going back, John, one more time. So we had budgeted for $100,000 and $74,000 is over, or is it $174,000 over?
$174,000 over. We had an original contract for $400,000 to do it. That was completed in early 19. problems were occurring in 20, we had to go through there and redo areas. And those areas that we had to redo became much more extensive.
Okay, so it's 174 over.
Correct.
Questions?
Yeah, so,
Commissioner Johnson?
so can you give a high-level summary of why the encapsulant failed the first time and why it won't this last time?
Yeah. We did some test areas throughout the summer of 2021, let those stay for a period of weeks to months to make sure that these would adhere. The information we got back from the contractors was that there may have been moisture in the building, moisture within the wood, that the encapsulant was not adhering to. So we were cleaning it up, put the encapsulant on, it wasn't adhering. The building now has been more fully sealed. We don't anticipate that to occur.
And is there some kind of warranty on, I guess if there are issues again, who is responsible for that?
Right. There's a 1-year warranty on this project here, so within that 1 year, we will be checking.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Commissioner Vaughn?
In 2019, was there a 1-year warranty?
There was.
And we got, it didn't happen during that 1 year?
Correct.
But it happened after that. But now we have to fix it. But wouldn't we be checked off after 2019? We pass a warranty? What I'm getting at is, we, meaning staff, we're not experts on this stuff. We hire consultants, Stantec or whoever the engineers are. Where are they at? That's who I'd like to point a finger at, saying, we hire you to be the inspection, make sure we get through the warranty so we don't have to pay bills like this. Otherwise, it feels like we're research and development, because the company that did it, I would question saying, well, what happened? And we can blame moisture and everything else that's in there. But then the awareness should have been in 2019. This place is not sealed, it's not ready, this is potentially gonna happen. That's what surprises me about this, is there's too many opportunities before that where someone could have said, hey, this isn't really the right time to do it, the right place to do it. And I just don't see, was it Stantec as our consultant?
They are.
Where are they? And I want them to say, yeah, that happens. I mean, or I see no report from them saying, hey, sorry about that, should have caught it back then, but, and if we keep going backwards on this project, yes, we had COVID, we had a lot of this project's been delayed, and I've always asked the questions, is this holding up the other project to get the developer to get going? Because we had to give this building completed, it had to be cleaned up. But if that did the other delays of them working, I'm worried about timelines here, that I don't want us to delay the other project because we're not fixing this, because it's gonna get fixed, it sounds like it's being fixed. But I don't want it ever, as just like Mr. Johnson said, I don't want this ever coming back again and saying, it's bad again, and you're slowing down the project, we gotta wait till it's done, we never got a clean building like you said it would. I think, and maybe have some report from Stantec, what's their input on it? Yep, sorry, or what are they saying? I don't know that.
Yeah, as far as a report from Stantec, I do not have that. I've had conversations with Stantec as well as with Mabel, the contractor, with similar questions on this. You know, what happened within the building? How do we have confidence that what happened in the past will happen in the future, and why was this missed to begin with? And a lot of it came down to building conditions, roof leaking, moisture within the wood, and when you saw the flaking of the encapsulant coming off, it was coming off, you know, in large sections with the wood behind it.
We're into this game, I'm not gonna say no to it, we gotta pay the bills, we gotta go forward. I just wanna get some clear understanding that this is gonna be the last time I say it. No more bills come to the city of Egan or Hastings or HEDRA on Confluence. I want this, but I don't want to delay it anymore. I think the community doesn't want to delay it anymore, and I don't want this being the reason why the other one's not getting delayed. So I think it's important. I'll make the motion that we approve the bills. I appreciate the funding mechanism that you're thinking of. But I think I'll talk about it down on the Confluence environmental costs. I think we need to find a way now that says we need some timelines, we need some updates, the community needs some more answers. Because we've been told, I know as a council, and I think HEDRA, that there's gonna be more communication about this building, and we haven't seen it yet. So, with that, I'll make the motion to approve the bills as presented.
Okay, a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, we have our first item of business is to adopt a resolution 2022-23 to rescind the facade improvements grant.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, as was mentioned, we've got a resolution before HEDRA this evening. This is actually a grant that HEDRA approved at your meeting just in May. The building owner that applied for the grant received feedback from their window manufacturer, essentially, that due to the volume of windows that they would be ordering, that they just won't be able to get that volume of windows prepared and ready until late 2022, potentially even early 2023. We did offer the ability to come to HEDRA and propose an extension. However, just simply due to the sheer volume of this project, it's about $140,000 all in. Frankly, this wasn't a significant portion of that project, isn't fatal to the project. It's still going to go forward as is. And frankly, the property owner said, I would rather see this money go to somebody that can put it to use more quickly in the community. And so for that reason, she asked that rescind the grant, and then if HEDRA does so, then staff would make the community aware that there is that just under $2,400 available yet again for this funding cycle for the facade improvement grant. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
There wasn't a list of people who didn't get in under the first one that we could go back to that list and say, you had applied, but we had given out all the grant funding previous to that.
Yep, yeah, Commissioner Horsch, we're aware of a handful that we're looking into this, and we're actively soliciting bids for work, and so we're going to get that, because it is first come, first serve. I didn't want to send anything to anybody ahead of this meeting or individually. We're going to do a mass email blast to members of the DBA and for businesses, property owners we know along Vermillion Street, as essentially it's my first thing to do tomorrow of, hey, hot off the presses, roughly 2,400 available, first come, first serve.
We didn't have anybody in the queue is what I'm.
Oh, correct, yep. Once we received applications that met the amount that was available, we stopped accepting applications, yep.
Any questions? And looking for a motion to approve? And second, all in favor, say aye. Aye, and that carries. And next, we have a resolution 2022-24 authorizing signatures and consent to assign TIF agreement from Stencil/Lake Isabel Flats.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yep, so this one, really the purpose of this is the developer Stencil Group has created an LLC specific to the development project that will take place. They also have an LLC, NSKW LLC, which has taken ownership of that single-family home that's currently on the redevelopment site. So really what this is doing, because the TIF agreement that was approved by HEDRA and reviewed by City Council was between HEDRA, the city, HEDRA and NJS Development. And so what this now would do is make it so that NJS Development could assign all the rights and abilities of that TIF agreement to the actual LLC that will have ownership of the project. And so that's what we're requesting here this evening, is a resolution that basically says that it's okay for NJS Development LLC to assign their interest in the contract for private redevelopment, i.e. the TIF agreement, to Lake Isabel Flats LLC and NSKW LLC. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Clarification on that. All of these entities here are all controlled by Nathan Stencil on this, so it's essentially different entities that he's established for various portions of the project.
Any questions? If not, look for a motion to approve. Motion to approve. Second. And all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, and that carries. Next, we just have our reports and information, and I think, John, you went over the Confluence already.
Yeah.
But
If there's no other questions on the Confluence environmental cost, we can move on to item B.
Chair, could I have a quick follow-up?
Yep.
John, sorry to continue on this, is it possible to get documentation or a letter from Stantec to put in this file, so when I'm not up here someday, they can at least say, hey, what happened? How come this keeps going? I'm just trying to get us off the hook for once and put the pressure on someone that we hired to make sure the project's completed. So is it possible? That's all I'm asking. And if you could reach out to them and see if they'll provide something, I
Will
think.
do. Commissioner, I'll do that. We did get information on final testing back from Mavo on that as well, but I will check with Stantec. Thanks.
Good, so next we have our open to business quarterly report.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. President. So for the first quarter, CCD, as part of our contract through Dakota County, provides us with essentially a quarterly update as to their activities so that we know what's kind of going on and where the benefit is. During the first quarter, MCCD staff met with 4 Hastings residents as well as 6 Hastings businesses. And really the highlight of this last quarter's activity with respect to MCCD is their participation in the Spiral Foods Co-op loan. You may recall initially Spiral Foods came to HEDRA requesting $150,000. Ultimately, that was reduced to $50,000 in part due to MCCD's involvement with them bringing $50,000 in financing to the project. The remaining was additional equity and then financing through Vermilion Bank. But that's really what we wanted to highlight. You did approve the bill earlier this meeting with respect to open to business in that program, so just highlighting what you're getting for those dollars essentially.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Eric on open to business? Great. Nice report, thank you. Next is our development updates.
Development updates here. A few things that are on the list, a few things to add to the list itself. Quality One Woodworking is completing their project at their 50,000 square foot addition, so that's great to see here. One thing that's not on the list here that the council will be considering on Monday is potential expansion to Intech. Intech is looking to expand their operations by about 60,000 square feet. The city is in competition with another community in Ohio. That has triggered the state to become involved in some funding for that. There's some support resolutions that the council will be considering on Monday night related to that. So we're hopeful that the aid that would come from the state in the form of grants and forgivable loans would help entice that expansion project to happen here, which would be great. And Eric has been very instrumental in working with Greater MSP and with DEED and Intech and making that happen. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that one. Lake Isabel Flats, we're scheduled to close on that in the next few weeks. That'll be great to have that apartment project going. They're about ready to submit their building plans as well. Tyler Street Landing, we continue to work through. They're on schedule. I'm waiting for a closing date sometime this summer on that property. With the Confluence is what's happening inside the building right now. It was there earlier this week. Framing within the building is about complete right now. They're starting on HVAC. Windows are about done. Painting is done. Be nice to see more looking on the outside of it, more advertisement of the building, which I'll continue to ask questions on that one, but there continues to be work on the inside of the building itself. One thing too, do you have your stickers? Makers Market.
I do not.
Nah. See, Eric had this really cool idea that he just showed me. Makers Alley Market Way, he's got 8 vendors going to participate in this, looking to get 25. In order to spread the word on it, he made these cool little stickers up with a QR code. Thank you, I'm old. QR code on the back of it, so that people could scan in here and get information on it. So kudos to him on that. Heritage Ridge, we had the pre-con for the 3rd edition, and that's under construction right now with Streets and Utilities, and application came in for the 4th edition. So they'll be completing lots this summer, grading this fall, more lots in the spring. They're looking to bring about 1 to 2 permits a week for a new construction there, which is great. And I think that's most everything we have new here. So I can stand for any questions.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Thank you, Chair. I got one question from a resident about the 315 Pine Street, the old Thorwood building. I know it's in our packet here that it continues, and it may not be a HEDRA thing, but, because I've seen other buildings or houses that get on fire, and it sometimes seems like a long time, and I get insurance and everything goes through it. Is there anything we could do on, that we set limits to? Hey, you can't just keep, you gotta have a timeline at least of how you're gonna be, because if I lived next to it, I'd be kinda like, what are we gonna do with this thing? So, it was a fair question, I just said, I don't know what I know they're working at it, but that's all I get on it.
Yeah. No, Commissioner, it's a very fair question, and that's went on way too long from when the fire occurred on that one. We did meet with we had a new owner of the property for about 1 year, started some cleanup work last fall, starting, continuing again in the spring. We've established some deadlines on that for what needs to be cleaned up and targets for what needs to be done on that. I don't have those with me right now, but we're working with that individual. We want to make, his intentions are in the right place, just want to make sure things get done. It's been way too long.
Thank you.
Any other questions or follow? Just had one on Intech. Is there an opportunity for them, would they be looking to buy land from us, or do they have enough land on their property?
I think they have enough land where they're at right now. So we've looked at some concept expansion plans up to the north of their building. I think they're fine on that one. Over time, there is some land adjacent to it that we have discussed, that could be available. So we're kind of looking in the short term and kind of the long term on that. Was there?
Right. Yeah, Mr. President, yeah, and we're also including that as part of the deed applications from the Minnesota Investment Fund and Job Creation Fund, that the city would offer that HEDRA would offer that 3 acres to facilitate some of the movements and stormwater needs for the expansion over time, in terms of having basically the city or HEDRA with some skin in the game. They like to see us offering something as well.
Okay, good, thank you.
Sure. The only other information item I had here, which isn't on the agenda, is on the HEDRA position opening here. As we discussed at the last meeting, Martha Sullivan is going to be stepping down from HEDRA. She served on the board here for the last 6 years, serving as president on a term here. She's one of their longest-serving members, and certainly her knowledge and what she brings to HEDRA from a legal standpoint certainly will be missed. That being said, we had applications out. Received a number of applications. We're going to be doing interviews during late May. Hope to have an appointment by council at the first meeting in June and have that individual sit here for the next meeting in June.
Great, thank you. Is there anything else we have?
Nope, nothing more from us.
Okay. Any other questions? Then we're looking for a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Johnson and anyone second, and all in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed?